Look, on the surface, I am not the person that you usually see talking about the importance of getting girls into computer science. I'm a liberal arts major. I went to graduate school in journalism, magazine publishing, and I love to wear high heels, partly out of necessity. I'm 5'2", so it happened. But there's more to my story. When I graduated from journalism school at Northwestern, I was hired to work at IBM as part of their corporate communications group. And my first assignment was working on the employee magazine. They assigned me to follow and cover an experience happening downtown in the city. Thanks. It was the rematch between Garry Kasparov and Deep Blue. The year prior, Deep Blue and Garry Kasparov had played chess in Philadelphia, and Kasparov had won. In the rematch, there was hope that Deep Blue would be the first computer to beat a man. So I went downtown and I spent 2 days in the basement of a skyscraper with programmers and technical architects and a team of people watching this computer beat a man playing chess, the world's greatest chess grandmaster. We were also live streaming this chess match on the World Wide Web. That's what we called it back then. It was completely exhilarating to be part of this experience, and I had an epiphany. I did not want to be the person sitting in the back of the room reporting on this amazing feat. I wanted to be part of the teams that were creating these kinds of experiences. And working with an artificial intelligence machine, you could just begin to see the possibilities for what technology could do to our world. This was the beginning of things like self-driving cars. So I went back to work on Monday, and I looked for some other opportunities at IBM, and I found myself a job as a web developer on another team. I was pretty excited, and I mustered all the self-confidence I could, and I walked into my boss's office, and I let him know that I'd made this decision. And his response was, and I'm going to paraphrase this part, something like, "You're a liberal arts major, you went to journalism school, you wear high heels." But this part I remember verbatim. "You don't know how to code." So I left that meeting completely emboldened. I was not going to let him stop me from taking this on. And I moved teams, and I went to work on a team that was charged with making the 1998 Winter Olympics in Nagano, Japan, the most web-friendly Olympics. We were going to make sure that the scoring that happens at each event was distributed live on the internet in real time. It was incredibly exciting. I spent the next year working on that program. In January, we moved to Japan and lived in the small village of Nagano, set up what would we describe now as a startup, and we built a system that would drive results across the web in real time. This was 20 years ago. Mark Zuckerberg was not even in college. There was no Twitter, so it was pretty groundbreaking back then, and it was great. But as soon as we were done with the Olympics, I quit IBM. I had gained a ton of skills, amazing experience, and yet that year was the most soul-crushing I have ever experienced. I experienced more than my fair share of gender bias and one very egregious case of sexual harassment. But those were ultimately just symptoms. What I realized in that year is that I was in a culture where I would never be successful because they did not value diversity. So since then, I reinvented myself as more of a project manager, digital consultant, and I've had an amazing career. I now spend my time at Google, where I manage millions of dollars of business for them, but I also get to spend a lot of my time working on this idea of getting girls more involved in computer science, and I run our local efforts for Made with Code, a program we launched last year. And that was 20 years ago. IBM has changed. They have a female CEO. One of 24 female CEOs in the Fortune 500. So it has changed incrementally, at least, because if you look at the top 10 technology companies that released their diversity numbers in the last year, they are reporting less than 30% of their employees are women. So it's not changing at the pace, and to put a finer point on it, it's not changing at the velocity that we need to see. It's not just about speed, it's about having a common direction. Today, we know a lot about why this is a problem. We did a Gallup study last year where 1,600 people were interviewed, and we identified 4 of the major barriers to getting girls involved in computer science. They were inspiration. Girls don't see things they want to do in computer science. Access. We know in this city alone, the digital divide is huge. The access we have in this school versus another in the north side or west side can't be predicted. The third was encouragement. They need mentors. They need people who push them forward in computer science. And last, and probably the most insidious, is self-perception. So we know the many facets of this problem. We also know that if girls go and get into computer science, they then have to find jobs in companies where they will be welcomed, and there will be an embrace of diversity. The Harvard Business Review calls it something called psychological safety, a culture where they can take risks, stretch themselves into new ways, new positions, and be mentored and encouraged by their leaders, both male and female. There are also hundreds of organizations around the nation, and more than 100 in the city alone, working on the problems, helping girls get more engaged with coding. And yet, we haven't seen the change at the pace that we need. I have some answers for that. What we need to do to accelerate the change in getting girls involved in computer science is 3 things. Reframe the problem, redefine what success looks like, and redesign the solutions that are out there today. First, we need to reframe the problem. This is not a computer science problem. It's not a girl problem. It's an economic problem. You know from your own experience that almost every industry has been disrupted in the past 5 years. You might have taken an Uber here. You may have stayed in an Airbnb. If you're in retail, finance, real estate, you've seen what the digital economy can do to your business. That also means that the workforce is being reimagined, and the jobs in the future are going to be totally and completely different. This is everyone's problem, and everybody needs to be part of the solution. The second thing we need to do is redefine success. One of the most scaled programs, and most successful, is a program developed by Code.org, which was started in 2013. They set out to make it possible that every student could try coding, and they've been really successful. There are over 200,000 events around the world. They've been able to change policies in over 16 states, and they've trained hundreds of thousands of teachers. But they still don't know how we're defining success. Will we be happy when 2% of girls say they'll major in computer science? Will we be satisfied when 50% of the workforce is women in the technology industry? We need common goals, common objectives, and common KPIs that everyone can align around. And the last thing we need to do is we need to redesign the solutions that are in place today. Most of the programs that are out there are after school, auxiliary programs, weekend programs. Even if computer science is built into the curriculum, it is often a separate, siloed activity. By putting computer science on the side of everything else that our students do, we're limiting the possibilities. It should be part and parcel of math and science and art and everything that you're working on. And it doesn't help that in our media, we're not even seeing the images that we need to see. We need to redesign the messaging and the stories that we're telling girls about what it means to be in technology and computer science. Of the top 10 movies about computer science or hacking in the last 10 years, there's only one with a female heroine, and that's Girl with a Dragon Tattoo. So here's my call to action. We need to reframe the problem, redefine success, and we need to redesign the solutions. I mentioned my daughter, so I'll be fair and mention something about my son as well. I have a 2nd grader, but when he was in kindergarten, he was so excited that I worked at Google, he told everyone about it. He might have said a little too much because eventually his kindergarten teacher asked him, "Does your dad work at Google as well?" Now it's a whole separate TED Talk why she would ask him that question, but what's more interesting is his answer. He said, "No, only women work at Google." So that was a distorted view, and believe me, that is not the vision that we need. but it would be nice to be at 50-50. My call to action to you is to go back to the institutions, the organizations, the companies that you work for, your school, and ask for the data. How many girls are involved in computer science? How many girls are involved in the after-school programming available in robotics and coding? How many girls in this high school plan to major in computer science? Once we have that information, we'll be armed to understand what success looks like here and in Chicago and across the nation. So let's go back to why I'm talking about girls in computer science. I'm not a programmer, I'm not a STEM educator, I'm not a chief scientist. I'm not Larry Page, I'm not Sheryl Sandberg, but I would really like to be Sheryl Sandberg. I'm a mom, I'm a businesswoman, I'm a marketer, and I'm a citizen. And I am the exact right person to be talking about this problem. And here's the thing, so are you.